Good afternoon. Happy Friday, February 10th. Mark Milam here, your mortgage professional with Highland Mortgage. Let's get right to it. Not a very pleasant week for mortgage interest rates. Mortgage-backed securities taking it on the chin. Really, all of that started this time last week when we got the non-farm payrolls number. Came in over 500,000 jobs created in the past 30 days. That was against estimates of right around 150,000 jobs created. Anytime you triple expectations on something like job creation when we're fighting this inflationary battle, that's not good news, not what the market really wanted to see. And we've been caught in this battle between what the Fed says and what the market thinks now for the past 30 to 60 days. The market pricing in potential Fed rate cuts later this year. The market saying that the terminal rate's going to cap out in the high fours. The Fed's been saying something completely different, and the market's really been discounting what the Fed's been talking about until we got that jobs report last Friday. That was not a favorable report, and just now we're starting to see some of these people in the camp of Fed pivot start to move over to the higher for longer camp, where the Fed's saying, hey, we're going to keep rates higher for longer to make sure we finish the job on inflation, and that's why interest rates haven't performed particularly well. Now, there's a lot of speculation around these jobs numbers and why the jobs numbers came in so hot when all anyone's reading and hearing about are layoffs, whether it's in the tech sector or across construction. We're hearing about layoffs in a lot of different sectors, yet somehow we added 500,000 jobs in the past 30 days. There's some new methodology there for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And really, it's the BLS, it's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but it's also ADP that we look at for month-over-month job change. ADP does payroll for something like 1/6 of the world's population, so ADP is a great barometer for what we can expect out of the BLS typically. But this time they were way off. ADP number came in right around 106,000 jobs created, pretty low. The BLS number came in really high. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at this graph I created, this will show you the past 2 years of BLS numbers, those are the numbers in blue, against the ADP numbers, those are the numbers in red. The green line here is the deviation between the two. So the higher the green line, the more deviation between the ADP number and the BLS number. And this was last month's reading right here. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. This was last month's reading, and you can see this is the BLS number, over 570,000 jobs created. Here's the ADP number. We barely created over 100,000 according to ADP. That's a huge deviation, the biggest deviation we've seen really in 2 years across this really important report, this report that's guiding Fed policy. So it begs the question, which one is accurate? Is the ADP number accurate or is the BLS number accurate? And no one is really 100% sure. And that leads us into this place of uncertainty, and we find interest rates worsening. A little bit more headline grabbing data for you. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Larry Summers. Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary, talking about the economy may be headed for a Wile E. Coyote moment. And there's a lot in here about all of the risks facing the economy. But the takeaway, if we go all the way to the very bottom of this interview, I really found this part interesting. He said, the economy right now is as hard to read as any time that I can remember in the 40 years I've been following it. This is the former Treasury Secretary talking about this. The economy right now is as hard to read as any time that I can remember in the 40 years that I've been following it. On the one hand, the economy is very strong. The hard thing to judge is if inflation is on a strong enough downward trajectory to get to the Fed's 2% target. And if inflation comes down, will it stay down? And that last part, that will it stay down, is exactly what Chairman Powell has been saying. Listen, we're not going to take our foot off the gas until we're sure the job is done, because the absolute worst thing that could happen is that we stop too early, we get boomerang inflation, and we have to go through this rate hiking cycle all over again. That was not very welcome news. Let me show you one other piece of information I found interesting over the past week. This one I saw this morning, actually during my drive, so I texted it to myself. Yes, unfortunately, I was looking at my phone while I was driving. This says the biggest shift in the markets over the past week, and as we talked about this time last week is when this shift started, is a marked increase in the expected Fed funds rate, terminal rate. Last Thursday, the traders were pricing in a terminal rate, meaning an end rate for the Fed funds rate of 4.9%. Hey, listen, right now, we're at 4.75% on the Fed funds rate. So a terminal rate of 4.9, that's not that bad. That's not that far away. But now they're saying today, the terminal rate has been bumped to 5.16%. and maybe a 20 basis point rate cut by December of this year, right? I mean, really, people were earlier this year, we're talking about rate cuts starting in Q3. Well, now we're talking about December of this year. All of this is now the market realigning itself to the reality that maybe we're not in as good a territory as we thought we were, and mortgage rates are going to pay a price, at least in the short run. Now, what's coming next week on Tuesday? Not just Valentine's Day. Don't forget about your Valentine's Day. But we also get the latest consumer price index number. That's the most widely recognized, the most widely appreciated measure of month-over-month inflation. Very, very important number for us next Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning. If that number comes in hotter than expectations, look out. Interest rates are going to be headed higher. If the number comes in below expectations, especially if it's substantially below, we might have some room for improvement. So everything will be dependent on what we find out 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time next Tuesday with that CPI number. If I can be of any service to you over the weekend, don't hesitate to reach out, mark.milam@highlandmtg.com. Have a good weekend, everybody.